In this video, I would actually like to delve a little bit deeper into one of the key ingredients we use in the treatment of problem skin, salicylic acid. Salicylic acid is a very important ingredient because it allows us to treat quite a number of different skin conditions. But first of all, what is salicylic acid? Salicylic acid is known as a hydroxy acid. Now we have a number of different hydroxy acids we'd work with. There are lactics, glycolics, and then there is a salicylic acid. But salicylic acid is different to lactic and glycolic. Lactic and glycolics are what are known as AHAs, or alpha hydroxy acids. Alpha hydroxy acids are water soluble and they work a little bit differently in the skin to salicylic acid. Alpha hydroxy acids work by dissolving the bonds or the glue that holds the dead cells on the skin, whereas salicylic acid is oil soluble and it works extremely well within the pores. So it has the ability to get down deep in the pores to dissolve the clogging, the buildup of dead cells and oils within the pores. I've got a little diagram here to show you so you can understand a little bit better how salicylic acid works. So this is our skin. It's just a very simple diagram of our skin. You have the pore and the hair growing out of the pore as well. Now, down the bottom layers of the skin, we have where the new cells are born. It's called the basal layer. And as the cells mature and grow, they work their way towards the surface. And as they work their way towards the surface, they flatten out and they die and eventually flake off. So we essentially have a new skin every month. So this process takes about 30 days if you're young and up to 60 days when you're older. Now, salicylic acid works to dissolve the dead cells, as well as has the ability to penetrate into the pore and dissolve the buildup of dead cells and oil in the pore. So what you have here, this little guy here, is sebaceous gland, which is what pumps the oil into the pore, which gradually makes its way to the surface of the skin to lubricate and protect the skin. However, the dead cells and the oil can mix together to form a plug at the mouth of the follicle, causing clogging, is what we call clogging. Initially, it starts with just a little filament, and then there's gradually the clogging can grow as the follicle grows, as the dead cells and the oil are further deposited into that pore here. So, how salicylic acid works, it dissolves the dead cells on the surface. So unlike AHAs, which dissolve the glue that holds the dead cells, salicylic acid actually is a keratolytic and dissolves the dead cells and helps to, and it actually penetrates into the pore to dissolve the dead cells in the pore and the oil as well to release that clogging to the surface. Now, if that clogging is not addressed, if the buildup continues, that pore can literally burst and you end up with what's called a pustule. So you end up with a pimple with a pussy head on it. Now, salicylic acid is also fantastic at killing the bacteria that's causing the acne and drying up that pustule too. So we do use it for the treatment of acne as well, and it's extremely efficient at doing so. Salicylic acid is also used in the treatment of pigmentation and sun damage. It has a really great brightening effect, and particularly skin where it's thickened and it's exfoliating, it's a really efficient exfoliant. So where does salicylic acid come from? It's originally been derived from the bark of the willow tree, and it is closely related to aspirin, which is how it's actually a key ingredient in aspirin. So it has also on the surface the effects of not only antibacterial, bactericidal effects, but also slightly analgesic and anti-inflammatory, just like aspirin. So it's really good at reducing the signs of redness that are associated with acne and breakouts, as well as slightly reducing the pain. It helps to, because of that analgesic effect. Now, people who have allergies or intolerances to aspirin have to be careful with salicylic acid because it is so closely related to aspirin. So if you have an allergy to aspirin, it's best to avoid it. If you have an intolerance to it, that means if you take aspirin and you get an upset stomach, I would suggest a patch test behind the ear because it's only ingested aspirin that's causing you a problem rather than the topical application. So just do a patch test. Pregnant women should avoid aspirin and salicylic acid because it's closely related to aspirin. So as a precaution, it's best to avoid that. Now, interestingly, salicylic acid has many other uses in the pharmaceutical industry and the food industry too. Did you know that natural foods contain salicylic acid? Salicylic acid can be found in natural foods rather. And lots of foods contain salicylic acid: vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, and seasonings. Some of the examples are tomatoes, radish, mushrooms, green peppers, apricots, blackberries, guava, almonds, peanuts, and mustard, turmeric, rosemary, hot paprika, etc. So they all contain salicylic acid. Now, salicylic acid is used by the food industry as a food preservative because it can be naturally found in food, so it makes sense that it's a great natural preservative as well because it has the bactericidal, antibacterial property and antiseptic. Now, I used to work in pharmaceutical industry and I used to educate pharmacy assistants on over-the-counter drugs and medicines. And salicylic acid was a key feature ingredient in the products that are formulated for the treatment of warts, psoriasis, dandruff, and ringworm. Now, however, the products that are formulated for the treatment of these skin diseases and disorders are extremely high in percentage. So be very careful, never ever apply it to your face. Use salicylic acid skincare products that are designed for the skin for the treatment of acne or as an exfoliant. So typically you will find salicylic acid as a feature ingredient in skincare such as serums and sometimes as cleansers. And the maximum allowed for skincare application for over-the-counter, so not prescription, so just that you can just buy it over the counter, is 2% because it is deemed to be a safe percentage to leave on the skin overnight or for some time, so it's not just a rinse-off product. In a professional setting, we as beauty therapists use salicylic acid in peels. Now you can get a combined peel that has a bit of glycolic and a little bit of salicylic in it, which helps to tackle both the exfoliation on the surface as well as deep down. Or I work with a peel that has just salicylic, a very high percentage of salicylic. Now in this case, it's a product that is not left on. It's intended to just go on for a minute or two and then it's taken off. So really high percentage salicylic acid peels are really, really strong and has to be handled by a qualified, well-trained professional therapist, beauty therapist. And they typically only stay on for the skin for about 2 minutes, maximum 5. Not many people can tolerate it past the 3-minute mark, really, because it is a very intensive peel that generates a lot of heat, stinging, burning, and causes a lot of redness in the skin too. So the skin has to be very well taken care of and maintained before and after a peel. Don't ever go into a peeling session, and really a good beauty therapist won't allow you to have a peel of that strength without first preparing your skin or making sure your skin is in really good condition and then having some really good aftercare products to bring your skin back into balance. So salicylic peels we use for the treatment of acne, extremely good for open pores, clogging, blackheads, congestion, as well as sun-damaged skin, which is thickened, so it needs a good exfoliation, good refining, and lightening pigmentation, so brightening the skin as well. So it's a really effective tool for us to use, but your skin has to be in really good condition. It has to be very well looked after afterwards. So, and of course, sunscreen is absolutely essential after the use of any peels, and especially salicylic because it's such a high strength. So For home use, how you use salicylic acid, you can use it in a cleanser, which is a rinse-off product. So if you have clogging, congestion, open pores, oily problem skin that tends to break out, it's actually a really good idea to find yourself a good quality cleanser with a 2% salicylic acid, so you can use that to micro exfoliate every time you cleanse and also treat any problems that occur on the skin, like such as the breakout. So it helps to kill the bacteria that causes the breakout. Now, you can also find serum preparations with 2% salicylic acid that are used as a treatment for spots. So if you have a breakout, you apply directly over the spot and leave it on overnight. If you just apply it locally on a spot, it's fine to leave it, put it on directly on the skin and leave it on overnight. However, if you're using it on larger areas, for example, I have used salicylic acid to treat rosacea. In that case, I ask the clients to use, to blend the serum into the cream before it's applied to the skin, especially in the first week or so of using it, just until the skin gets a little bit used to it, until it acclimatizes, and then it should be fine after that. So if I'm using it for a client who's got a lot of sun damage and pigmentation, I ask them to blend it in and to mix it into the moisturizer before application. It acts as a little bit of a buffer and protects the skin because it is quite a strong ingredient, and it gives you fantastic and very fast results. I have used also salicylic acid serum in the treatment of milia, and milia pops out within 7 to 10 days if you use a really good quality product. So again, you would cleanse, you would moisturize, and with a cotton tip, dip it into the salicylic serum and then pop it straight over the top of milia every night. Leave it on overnight, and about 7 days later, it'll pop out. They'll just come off. What it is with milia, they're like a tiny hardened cyst, and they're covered by a layer of dead cells. So the dead cell, we need to gradually remove the dead cells, exfoliate, and eventually that milia will work its way to the surface and pop off. So there are a few little tips there for how you can use a salicylic acid preparation or skincare product at home. Let's see, we've covered precautions and contraindications. So I think I've covered everything. If you have any other questions, pop them in the comments below. If you would like me to do a ingredient spotlight on something that you work with and would like to know a little bit more about, don't hesitate to ask the question as well. Pop your comments below. Thanks very much. Have a fantastic day. And until next time, bye for now.